Finally, we reach the hot button section of the speech, due process of law. So, the British government violated the rights of the colonists without due process of law. They would sort of trump up charges, they wouldn't have proper court procedures, and so the colonists, when they decided to enshrine due process of law in the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, they decided this was a very, very key thing. Due process is not based on your identity group. Due process is based on you as an individual. You as an individual cannot have your rights removed from you without a due process of law, without a process that is fair and impartial and allows you to confront your accuser. This is due process of law. Botham Jean was entitled to due process of law, and so is Brett Kavanaugh. Brett Kavanaugh is entitled to a presumption of innocence. He is entitled to due process of law. The left has decided that in certain cases due process isn't necessary. Mob rule will do. And they've certainly decided that with regard to Brett Kavanaugh. Folks on the left, do you want to understand why we're pissed off about the Brett Kavanaugh nomination? I'll be honest with you. When President Trump nominated Kavanaugh, I was lukewarm at best. On my show, I called it a B- pick. I said I wanted Amy Coney Barrett. But now, I want Brett Kavanaugh enshrined on the Supreme Court, and after he passes, I want his body cryogenically frozen so he can remain on that court forever. And the reason is because you jackasses don't get to do this to people. You don't get to raise uncorroborated allegations and then demand that those allegations be used to destroy somebody's life. I don't know what happened between Brett Kavanaugh and Christine Blasey Ford. You don't either. You don't. You know how I know you don't? Because no one does, other than Christine Blasey Ford and Brett Kavanaugh. There are no witnesses. There's no corroborating evidence. Again, I'm not standing here saying that she lied. I'm not saying that she misled. I don't know. You don't either. You know what that means? That means you don't get to destroy a guy's life based on an allegation alone. And when folks say things like, believe all women, I have a question, why? Really, why? Because I am inclined to believe stories of sexual abuse. I really am. I came out against President Trump when he was running. I didn't vote for him. I came out against Roy Moore, and I actively told people not to vote for Roy Moore in Alabama because there was a lot of corroborating evidence and a bunch of various accounts. Okay, but when folks say believe all women, you can't believe all women any more than you can believe all men or believe any other group of people. And to suggest that women are inherently more believable than men is sexist. To say that men don't deserve the same due process as women is sexist. To suggest that Brett Kavanaugh, because he is white and privileged, does not deserve the same presumption of innocence or due process as someone else is racism and sexism. This is absurd. Okay, Brett Kavanaugh... And it is not a disrespect to women to say that if you want to ruin somebody's life, anybody, I'm not saying that a woman who comes forward and alleges something is by nature ruining somebody's life. I'm saying that an allegation like this ruins somebody's life. It does. Okay, Brett Kavanaugh's life, he's going to be smeared with this the rest of his life. It doesn't matter what happens here on in. He can be on the Supreme Court. That'll be better for him. He cannot be on the Supreme Court. It'll be worse. His life, he will spend the rest of his life being asked whether he tried to rape a girl when he was 17. Okay, that is what it is, but it is certainly not fair for us as a public to go along with the railroading of someone based on an allegation, again, with not a shred of corroborating evidence, nothing, and then say, well, we just have to believe the woman. And the lies that are being told right now are just extraordinary. The lies by the media in this case have been unbelievable. Okay, the lies that there was any corroboration. The lie, my favorite is there are a bunch of columns in the last 2 days, one by Connie Chung, who used to be on NBC and CNN, saying when she was 20, she was sexually assaulted. And she tells the story. It's a terrible story. And then she says, I believe Christine Blasey Ford because I was sexually assaulted. So let me get this straight. You, Connie Chung, were sexually assaulted by a person who is not Brett Kavanaugh, but Brett Kavanaugh is guilty of assaulting a person who is not you, Connie Chung. That's the logic here. And when people say that women don't lie about rape, okay, the truth is, most women, I'm sure, do not lie about rape, but some women do, and some women have bad memories, and some women misidentify. This stuff happens. Witness testimony does make mistakes. This is why we require evidence. If an allegation were sufficient to convict of a crime, we would call that mob rule. That would not be due process of law, and we would hold by it, presumably, with regard to every crime. And the fact that we are now cutting out this one provision of crime because we're in the middle of the Me Too movement, listen, I believe that men shouldn't act like pigs. I've been only advocating this since I was a teenager. I'm the only man in America who was a virgin until I was married and proud of it. And so I've been advocating for a higher standard. I've been advocating for a higher standard of traditional behavior on the part of men, literally my entire public career. But that doesn't mean that you get to carve out a section of crimes that don't require evidence. And here at USC, I guess you guys are really screwing this one up. Not only do all of the campuses have these Title IX cases, which are just absurd, just complete failures of due process, but I was reading about this story, you guys over here, from the Price Women and Allies group, where they sent an email about Brett Kavanaugh saying, quote, "We are personally inspired to reiterate the importance of educating and empowering women and allies alike." And then Price School of Public Policy professor James Moore sent an email stating that accusers sometimes lie, which is obviously true. Right? It's funny, Kirsten Power said, well, why can't you name anybody who can lie? Okay, we want to do this case. Tawana Brawley, the UVA rape case, the Duke lacrosse case, there's a football player recently who had his life ruined. He went to jail. There are cases where women lie, and there are cases where women don't have enough evidence, lots of cases where women don't have enough evidence. We don't actually have final statistics. They give you a range. They say somewhere between, the people who say that women never lie say that 2% of cases of rape are lies or are falsified. The actual range from the study I've seen is anywhere from 2% to 10%. And that does not count all of the cases that are brought to the police and the police just don't pursue, in which there's just insufficiency of evidence, which is like 45% of all cases that are brought to the police. In any case, James Moore sent an email saying accusers sometimes lie and arguing that maybe we should wait for due process in sexual assault cases. This was a boo-boo. You are not allowed to say this here. This is a very bad thing. So now people want James Moore fired for saying that sometimes accusers lie. Price grad student Kyla Coates wrote, quote, "As a female student, I feel very uncomfortable that a male professor whom I have never met is trying to interfere with my access to knowledge about my federal rights." He sent an email. He didn't use a spam blocker. Right? What? Okay, and then Moore responded. He said, "If you believe the victim, there's really no point in due process." So naturally, students called for him to be fired. Here's USC Annenberg Media reporting, quote, "Master student Mariana Jordan with USC Price shared how Moore's words are adding to the nation's triggering environment." She said, "Seeing Mr. Moore's email in my inbox was quite upsetting." You know what's more upsetting than seeing an email in your inbox? When someone accuses you of gang rape without any evidence on the floor of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and then suggests in USA Today that you shouldn't be allowed to coach your girls' basketball team anymore, and then suggests that because you're a white man, you're not entitled to due process, and they should really not be angry about it. If you get angry about any of that, it's because you don't have judicial temperament. It turns out it is amazing to watch how the goalposts shifted on Kavanaugh. First it was he doesn't deserve to be on the court because he's conservative, which you knew was coming. Then it turned into, and he's really not even that conservative, he's more of a textualist, frankly. And then it turned into, well, he doesn't deserve to be on the court because of the Blasey Ford allegations. And then there's no corroboration for the allegations. And then it's, he doesn't have the judicial temperament necessary because he got mad when you called him a rapist. Which, that's just such an unbelievable allegation. It's an incredible allegation. It's like the equivalent. I have a 4.5-year-old daughter and a 2.5-year-old son. It's like my daughter taking my son's hand, slapping him in the face with it a few times, and then going, "Why are you crying? Why are you crying? Why are you so angry?" And he might be angry because you're slapping him in the face with his own hand. It's probably that. Honestly, if I'd been Brett Kavanaugh, there are very few times in American public life where I wish I were in somebody's shoes for 5 minutes. I wished that I was in Brett Kavanaugh's shoes for the 5 minutes just to respond to the various senators on that panel. Let me just say for the record that I don't make a habit of cursing publicly. I would never have stopped cursing. You know how it said in his yearbook, something? It would have been like that, except every F would have stood for the exact same word. And they all would have been directed at Dianne Feinstein and Dick Durbin and Cory Potato Head Booker.